Scott, I can see you there. How are you getting on? Are you very much looking forward to having a run into the Dubai Duty Free Irish Derby?
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. As I was sitting waiting for the technical things to be worked out, I'm looking at Aidan, and I'm thinking that this is normal course of business for Aidan, and I don't know what gets Aidan nervous, but I can tell you that I am very anxious, very excited. It's kind of hard to believe. You know, will be our first horse in the Irish Derby, and you know, and to have it be with a horse we bred.
I think Tom was having this is Paul here, Scott. The car. I think Tom was having he said he's going to dial back in again. I'll just take over from Tom while he joins us again. You bred this horse yourself, Scott, and I was reading that you were sharing Kitten's Joy, the stallion, as well, which is an incredible story.
You know, it is amazing. It's amazing on so many fronts. I can't tell you, because 5 years ago we started to purchase a few fillies in Ireland, and we were bringing them to the States to run them. And these were just hard-knocking 3-year-old fillies, and they all turned into stakes fillies. And one thing led to another. And our program, we generally sell the colts and race the fillies. We keep the fillies and the families. But these Kitten's Joys have been the exception for us. And so I was just commenting that this is an amazing experience for us. Number one, because we've got a colt. And generally we just have a whole group of fillies. So here we are with the colt. We're in the Irish Derby for the first time. And if you looked at my nightstand, if somebody came into my home and looked at my nightstand, you'd find a biography of Vincent O'Brien I'm reading right now. And I think it's the third biography I've gotten my hands on in the last few years. So I've been just, you know, immersing myself in the history of Irish racing for more than 4 or 5 years now. So this is kind of a surreal thing for me and for my family to be involved like this in the Irish Derby. We're very, very thankful, and to do with a homebred is extra, extra special. And it's been a great experience. That's all I can say.
And on the family team, Scott, we're absolutely thrilled to have your horse running this weekend. And on the family team, Andy, if I could turn to you there, your family obviously is your whole family is involved in this industry, and you have your first Derby runner. Can you tell us what that's like for you and your family, please?
It's great. Look, it's great to have a runner in it. Hopefully, we'll become competitive now. But it's exciting. Look, to be honest, I'm just treated as another race. I can't let myself think as the Irish Derby. You know what I mean? Because in case you mess up the train, you know what I mean. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Sure. So the horse doesn't know any different, Andy, but you do. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, the horse doesn't know, and I want to keep the horse not knowing any different. That's the way. That's the way I want to keep it. That's the way keep it level.
I just got to, before I go to you, Aidan, Tom, can you hear us there?
I can hear you now again. Sorry about that. Slight issues here on the internet front. But look, Andy, geez, absolutely brilliant to have a horse like Sunchart, as he just said. And I suppose it's just, you're just kind of counting down the moments now.
Yes, look, he was good as a 2-year-old. He was disappointing in Derristown, there's no point in saying it. But he was lame after Ben rode him. He lost his action 3 furlongs out, and he came back. I just wasn't happy with him. He came back in and got the vet there first thing next morning, and he was lame, and he actually got lamer as a day. But about 3 or 4 days, it passed on to something minor, just a little bit of bone pain in a hind leg, and came back. And like since we started riding him, my nephew rides him all the time. He rides him, and he's delighted with him since. He done his final piece of work yesterday morning, and we were very pleased with that now.
And I mean, on riding him, obviously, Ben rode him the last day. Looks like Ben ride him again on Saturday.
Yeah, well, as far as I know, he's riding him. We didn't discuss it with owners, but I don't think I think he knows the horse, and there's no need to change. If as far as I know, he's riding him anyhow.
And I mean, Ben's just had the most brilliant progression in the last couple of years as well. So you've no worries about him, although obviously you know him well, having started his career with you.
No worries. He's only 18. I have no worries about him because he's able to hold his ground with anyone. He doesn't hold any fear. He's a very droll kind of fella. He doesn't get excited. So it should stand to him. Nerves won't be on him anyway.
I suppose the family teammate might bring you in here because you're well used to having young members of your family involved in riding into by-duty-free Irish Derbies.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Tom. Sure, listen, the lads have rode in it as well, yeah, so it's great. And Joseph had a winner, was it last year, the year before? So, no, sure, Donica rode in it as well. So, no, looking forward to it, Tom.
And I suppose, I mean, when this is just the most kind of bizarre year, isn't it? I suppose prepping for the Derby with the by-duty-free Derby a week ahead of Epsom. I mean, it's just completely different, I suppose, for you and someone that would have runners in both.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very unusual year, Tom, really. It's obviously the first time all these horses are going to go over 1.5 miles. It's probably on the fairest 1.5 miles in the world. So horses are going to come out of the clouds in this race, you know. So nobody is going to know what's what until after this race over 1.5 miles. Like, it's so exciting. Like, it's incredible, really. Like you can go to Epsom every year and you can have hard luck stories and you can come back and say, maybe if I had done this or I had done that, but that doesn't happen at the Curragh. Like, after the 1.5 miles at the Curragh, we'll know who's the best 1.5 mile horse and what horses need to drop back to 1.25 miles or what horses need to go back to a mile, you know. So that's always the best thing about the Curragh. Like, you know where you're going after it. We always think.
And I suppose, like, as you mentioned, you know where you're going after it. I mean, it's just so murky. I mean, the way the horses have been prepped with that extended period of 9-10 weeks where there was no racing, how have you found that? I mean, you tend to bring a horse on relatively gently, these kind of middle distance horses anyway. How have you found that? How have they reacted to that situation where there's just no racing between sort of March and May?
Yeah, no, I suppose it's been the same for everybody, but it is going to be very unusual, and things could happen that none of us could expect to happen. Like, horses will disimprove and horses will improve. Like, we would usually like to have 2 runs into well spaced out before the Derby. So really, like, most horses are only after having the 1 run now, and I think it's probably going to be the most exciting of all because that there's so much mystery in it. Hopefully we won't get too much rain, and hopefully the ground will be nice and horses will be able to show their true form, Tom. But it's been very, very unusual year. But listen, we're lucky to be racing. I suppose the thing we're all hoping now that owners will be able to come back racing, and that's probably the next big thing. Like, it's great to have the racing on, but like, next thing, hopefully owners will need to be there to make the full day out of it, we think.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame. I mean, the likes of yourself, Scott, obviously you can't travel over at the moment, but surely it's an experience you would like to have, you know, finally having horses in Ireland, in Europe, and you just have to watch on the TV.
You know, I couldn't agree more with Aidan. So over here in the States, I think we were on about it seemed like 10 weeks, 11 weeks hiatus for the most part, you know, without really any racing. And then Churchill finally came back, and, you know, the old saying, beggars can't be choosers, right? You know, it seemed like a revelation when Churchill came back, right? There, you know, empty grandstand and all that, but everybody was just so thankful to have racing back. And then Belmont followed, and we've had some other tracks, but I'd be lying if I told you that I wouldn't rather be right over where you are.
Yeah.
You know, taking this all in and just enjoying it and seeing it and smelling it and all that. But with everything that's going on, I'm just so thankful that we're racing here in the States, that you're racing in Ireland and the UK. It's just good to have racing back. So I guess that's going to have to do. But these are different times.
Yeah, they are different times. He's a lovely horse, Crossfire Hurricane. I mean, he's done absolutely nothing wrong. How happy are you with him at the moment, or what Joseph told you?
Joseph, he's amazing. I mean this in all sincerity. I don't think the apple rolled 1 inch from the tree. I think the apple's nestled up against the tree, and he's amazing. We love working with him. He's so in tune with his yard, so in tune, with each one of the horses. We get weekly updates, very detailed weekly updates. He's fantastic to work with. The colt's doing great, knock on wood. I've over the years listened to Aidan, read and listened to Aidan talk about the good Galileos, the courage, the willpower, desire. And I would tell you over here, those of us that are associated with the Kitten's Joy and the good Kitten's Joys, they'll run through a brick wall. And I suspect in both cases, that's coming from Sadler's Wells. But this colt, Tony Lacey, who oversees our operation here, we've been, especially in the last few weeks, we've been looking through some photos, foal photos, yearling photos, 2-year-old photos, and photos today of Crossfire Hurricane. And if you forget about the growth of the horse and how he's filled out, the one thing that's always been the same on him is his eye. And he is always, from the day he was a foal, he just had this ability. If you walked up to look at him, he just stares at you. He just locks on you. And I'd ask Tony about it, and Tony'd say, well, the good ones sometimes just are very observant, and they're staring you down. And this guy he's got heart and courage. He's doing well. And, hopefully the good Lord, keeps everybody good and healthy, and we make it to Saturday, and it's a fairly run race, and hopefully there's not too much given the ground and all that. But Colt's doing good, and we're excited. And if Joseph is happy, we're happy. So
yeah, that's got to be it, hasn't it? Aidan, like you said, the character of some of these horses, like some of the great Derby winners that you've had down over the years, in Dubai Duty Free Irish Derby winners, quite a few obviously have done the double, the likes of Galileo, Camelot, Australia. Is there something a little different about them, what Scott says, that kind of look they give you, that level of confidence they have around the yard?
Yeah, I think so, Tom. And Scott's horses like that, because I've seen him racing. He puts his head down and out. And like those type of horses can overcome anything, really, whatever happens in the race or whatever happens to them physically. It's that will to win. And I think what Scott said there is right. It's coming from Sadler's Wells. It's that real genuineness, and that like those horses will die for you, Scott. And like Andy will tell you too. You've had some of them that just head goes down and out, Scott. And your horse has that real Galileo courage. That's what he had as well. So it's very important. Tom, and horses either have that or they don't have. And like he's a leader and a fighter. He's full of courage, and like that's like probably 90% of it with a horse. You can train them, they can have the pedigree, they can have everything else, but if they don't have the will to win, it's very difficult.
Is there any sort of ones that really stood out for you over the years that really would have had that like you said, there might not be that much sort of between them physically or on the page, but just when out in the track, they just gave that extra bit? Anyone that really jumped out, maybe bar Galileo?
I suppose, Tom, Galileo was a typical example, because like anybody that would look at him, you would see what you mean. His head used to go out and down, and the harder you push him, the lower his head would get, and the further out he would stick it. Like a lot of horses, when you push them, they get clever and they come back to you. Their head comes up and you can't push them. But whatever he had, and Scott has it, and you would have seen horses where they don't give up, and it's that courage. You know what I mean? And it's like what Scott says, like you see that from a very early age in a horse. Scott, it's that they're genuine. Like if there were people, you'd say that's a very genuine person. I think. Very
and did you want? Yeah, and did you want to come in on that? Hopefully your fella has a bit of that genuineness.
Yeah, he has. He won in Tipperary, and so I'd be hoping for rain. So the lads wouldn't. I'd be hoping for that'd increase my chances. But he is by Teofilio, who's by Galileo, and he does put his head down. He'd gallop through a wall for you when he's on song. That's the type he is. He's damned as a half such a thunder snow, I think, and he does try for you. Like he was disappointing in Derrinstown, but I just put that down to a few things. Like his form as a 2-year-old would, if the ground gets soft, we'd have a good chance.
I mean, that 2-year-old form, you say, I mean, it's good. Surely the phone was ringing off the hook when he won as a 2-year-old. I mean, it must be a big decision for the owners to hold on to him. But surely they were offered a few decent numbers for him.
Yes, they were. Yeah, yes, Mr. Gary was offered quite a bit of money for him. He just like he had a few good horses years ago. And he just said he doesn't care. He doesn't care whether he sold them or not. You know, he doesn't. He has his business, and he's happy to roll the dice. That's the kind of thing.
And that's what we want to see. And surely as well, you want to see that. I mean, you know, obviously you'll have plenty of runners in the race, but you want to see more faces around the parade ring and plenty of horses turning up. So it's a true test, don't you?
Yeah. Oh. Well, look, you know, sorry, Andy. We are sellers all the time, and that we be trying to encourage to sell. Like that was always us. Like we're delighted to have a runner in the Irish Derby now. Only for him we wouldn't have, like, you know. But he wanted to roll the dice and have a go. We were just. And
Andy, I suppose that, like you say, you would have in the past, that's the thing about your horses. Generally, they wouldn't stay with you all that long. You'd find another home for them quickly and turn them over, wouldn't you, generally?
Yeah, but look, just a small family business we run, really, and to really keeping the lads' works in jobs. That's what keeps us selling a few horses here and there. That's what keeps us, you know, keep going. That's really what it is. There's a couple of brothers involved with me here, and they do a bit of sales and breeze ups and that, and I usually train what they can't sell. Then after that, so that's what I end up.
Is that a thankless task, or?
No, I enjoy it. Look, there is some horses that have left that I wanted to stay. You know, but we've done well the last few years. We've always had a horse or two to sell to Hong Kong, like, and it just keeps the thing going, keeps our business going, like, and that's it. And
you're no strangers to the winners' enclosure in the Curragh either, with the likes of On Cider and Soares and fellas like that have brought in plenty of prize money too.
Yeah, we have a nice bunch of horses, but probably at a lower level now. But they'll win races, you know what I mean? But they're if we can place them right, like, there's a nice bunch of horses there. But yeah, it's just great. Like, you want to have. I never thought I'd have a runner in the Irish Derby alone. It's just like, and after Leopardstown, I thought it was gone, and then just after 3 or 4 days, he started to come back a bit, and we gave him a little bit of work last Friday, and just a handy bit, just to get him going, work hampering, and we gave him a nice bit of work last Tuesday, and we were very happy with him now. So we think he's back right.
Well, that's great, isn't it? That's the dream. I mean, Scott, isn't it? Even from an owner's point of view, that's the dream. You just want to get that phone call from a trainer a week out from a race and say, yeah, no, it's good. Things are all good, don't you?
Yeah, no question, you know. And I'll give you one other thought, because I'm the one in the States here, right, talking to you. You know, we've raced over here for years and years, and just love it. I did it with my dad for 20 plus years before. Now I'm doing it with my family and my son. But you know, there's nothing, whether they're a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old. I mean, there's nothing like a good horse to pick you up and make you feel good. But I will tell you, you know, since we've started racing in your neck of the woods in Ireland, I love everything about it. And I just want to make a point that, you know, Joseph's been fantastic, but HRI is also, your Horse Racing Ireland. I mean, from day one, they reached out to me. They've been over here in the States. They've been in Lexington last August when I was up at Saratoga for the sale. They threw a cocktail party. HRI is doing a great job. So, you know, for somebody like me in the States, even if I can't be there, there's a lot of people, you know, in the industry in Ireland that are really making this a good experience, a lot easier for me, you know, being so far away. And but I will tell you, when Crossfire won that, so that's the first group stake I've won in Ireland. And when that happened, I'm not too proud to tell you, I had more than a few tears in my eyes of just, this is why we do it, you know, and this is why we're in the business. And to do it with people you know and respect, and to do it in a place like Ireland with your heritage makes it off the chart for me. So as the American here, I just want to tell you that I really appreciate this opportunity, and we love racing. We love racing in Ireland.
Yeah, it is great, and like I say, you know, when like obviously every year you'll have runners in the Derby, but just to have that sort of depth of the field, and like I say, have new people come in, it's surely as important for you to have new competitors and see new owners coming in, because surely it helps you to stay competitive and you know, keep going too.
Oh yeah, it makes it very special, Tom, and like that's what it's all about. And like Scott said, for Scott to have a runner there after breeding the horse and doing what he after winning the Derby trial on the way up, and like that makes all the difference to the race and for everybody here, Scott. You know, like Andy will tell you this thing. Like it's all about, listen, racing is all about owners, and like owners keep the whole thing going, everything about it. You know, so we're very grateful to you for everything. And that's like, without you, Scott, it wouldn't happen. You know what I mean? Isn't that right, Andy?
Yeah,
and,
that's right. Yeah.
Like, listen, it's and like we know it's a big investment, Scott, and like we appreciate everything you do, and how interested you are in it for us all, really. You know, so like we really appreciate you coming here and racing the horses here in Ireland, Scott. You know.
Yeah, that's very kind of you to say that.
We really follow you now as well. You know what I mean? So we're watching all your horses. I'm afraid the whole of Ireland is watching your horses wherever they're on.
Know. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the irony, Tom. By the way, maybe I shouldn't mention it. It's off the Irish Derby subject, but Saturday is a really, really, really big day for us, because we have, of course, the biggest thing is the Colt and the Irish Derby, but also on Saturday we have a filly that is running in a Grade 1 at Belmont, who happens to be an Irish filly that we own, Zofel. Who's out of a young Galileo mare, who's a three-quarter sister to Listen and Sequoia, who Aidan knows really well. And she's a wonderful filly, and lo and behold, she's trained by Brendan Walsh, an Irishman. So as an American, I'm trying to do my part. And
you're doing your bit here, Scott. Fair play. You are doing your bit for Ireland.
And I don't get paid for any of this, by the way.
I do have one or two questions. I do have one or two questions for listeners. Just want someone to send us in there. Scott, you usually sell your colt, so why do you hold on to Crossfire Hurricane to run him, particularly in Europe?
Kitten's joy.
Yeah.
You know, it's different in Europe with Galileo, because he is clearly recognized, and in the sales ring, they'll bring any amount. They can bring anything, millions of dollars, millions of pounds, millions of euros. In the States, it's an interesting thing, but you know, we're very oriented here still. It's been shifting, but we're still pretty oriented towards dirt racing here, dirt and speed. And so the Kitten's Joys generally will go through the ring, and they're not known as commercial racehorses, you know, commercial product. Everybody knows that he's been the leading turf sire over here 7 years in a row. I'm not sure if that's ever happened in the history of North America. So that said, he's not a commercial sire. So this colt, like any of the other Kitten's Joys we have, we don't even entertain the thought of taking him through the ring. We just want to race him. You know, we're thankful to own shares in the horse and participate with John Sakura and Hillendale. So the Kitten's Joys are an absolute exception for us. No question about it. He's the answer. It's the simple answer.
Yeah. Aidan, just quick question for you. Obviously, with the two kind of derbies at the Curragh and Epsom sort of within kind of 8 days of each other, is there a chance any horses might run in both, or is that a sort of you kind of see on the Monday after type thing?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, listen, I think it'd be tough, Tom. Like the Irish Guineas, like it was just a little bit tight going back again, even after the Irish Guineas to the Curragh. That's why some of those horses will go to Epsom. I don't think there is, but there's a kind of a new crop of horses running in, like we're thinking of running the Derby, so we don't really know what's going to happen.
And what are you thinking of? Maybe just say off the top of your head, who's likeliest to run then at the Curragh?
We're thinking running Arthur's Kingdom, who was second in Ascot, so that's a quick wheel. We're thinking running a horse called Dawn Patrol, is still a maiden. He just got beaten in a maiden in Leopardstown. Then a horse won that called Tiger Moss. We're thinking of running him. We're thinking of bringing back Sarah San Diego, the horse
Santiago.
Santiago, sorry, that won in Ascot. So listen, they're wheeling back quick, so that's a bit risky, you know. So Mythical, he ran in the trial at the Curragh as well, and ran a little bit disappointing. So we could run Serpentine as well, but we're thinking around 4 or 5, Tom, you know. So
yeah, and then sort of a different for Epsom, is it? Most likely.
We're thinking of running back some of the Irish Guineas horses in Epsom. It's just an extra week, and I was giving them an extra week, you know, because they had ran over a mile, and we just had to change a few things that when we were going back a mile and a half, and it just needed that extra week to do it, you know. That's what we were thinking of doing at the moment. Like obviously we're waiting to see the forecast in the morning. There's you might get a lot of rain, you might get no rain. So it's all a little bit up in there, but that's what we're thinking at the moment.
Yeah, and look at the ground, I suppose. Well, it should be good anyway. It won't be too quick or too one extreme or the other, you would think, given the weather we've had over the last sort of 2 weeks.
Yeah, we were talking to Brendan there this morning and this evening, and he thinks it's beautiful ground at the moment. So listen, really what you want ground is that can give every horse a chance. Like Andy's horse probably needs soft ground. Some of the horses need good ground. If we got nice ground, Andy's horse wouldn't get jarred, and all the good ground horses would be happy on it. That's wishful thinking for us all. You know what I mean? So, but listen, if the ground gets soft, you kind of have to be a specialist to work on it. And like Andy's horse does work on it, but I'm sure if he got nice ground, he'd be okay on that as well, maybe. You know what I mean? So Scott's horse wants nice ground as well. So, so we'll see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah, just a quick word on the other Group 1 of the weekend. Obviously, the Al Washmia, so they've stepped in for the Pretty Polly. What's looking like turning up in that, Aidan?
We're thinking running 2 fillies. Magical is going to start back. So, and we're also thinking running Fleeting. So it's Magical's first run of the year. She's in good order, ready to start, and Fleeting has had a run. So that's what we're thinking at the moment, Tom, running both. Yeah,
and look, great to have Magical back again, isn't it?
Yeah, we weren't expecting to have her this year, and listen, it was great that the lads reconsidered and let us have her for another year. You know, she was planned on going to No Nay Never, so listen, that just got put back for a year. She done very well over the winter. So like Scott, those fillies are so important, you know. So hopefully we'll be able to keep her safe for the year and go back next year. And that's always the danger, but like those good fillies are just so important.
Yeah, absolutely, and but a good filly as well for you, hasn't she? It's so sporting from the guys to keep her going, given what she's achieved so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and because she's raced 3 years or 4 years, but this year this winter she done very well, so it will be interesting to see.
Chris Cook from The Guardian was on. Quick question from him about Russian Emperor. How did he come out of asking another horse that looks like he's on the up? And you talk about horses that hit the line hard and put their head down and are gutsy. He looks like very much of that ilk. How did he come out of Ascot?
Yeah, no, good. He looks to have come out of it well, Chris. He hasn't done a lot. He's done one little bit. Seems to be in good form. And the entries for Epsom are on Monday. So we have him down to be entered. So at the moment, but so far he seems to be in good form, Chris.
I suppose, is it more likely that maybe the ones that run at Ascot would be more likely maybe to perhaps line up at Epsom just for having that week? Maybe the likes of Mogul. How is he after?
Mogul is good, and he might need a week. It's a funny thing, really. He needed really 2 runs before the Derby, but we weren't able to get 2 runs into him. So we ran him in the toughest race over a mile and a half. So we're kind of asking that one race to do 2 races job, if you know what I mean. But because of that, we had to give him a little bit of extra time, and that's why we're hoping that he might come back for Epsom. And like Santiago ran in Ascot, but he was very fit going into it, and like we think that the Curragh would suit him. That's why he's going back. And Arthur's Kingdom is the same. They're 2 easier horses to get fit. Mogul is a burly horse, like a big miler, really. So
he did look quite burly. I mean, obviously, no, we weren't there. We're just watching from the TV, but he looked burly enough on the telly. Was there plenty left to work with him?
Yeah, there wasn't. Like, we had worked him as hard as we could work him, but some horses need racing to get him there. We had planned on giving him 2 runs, like I said. So
yeah,
he was very vulnerable going to Ascot, but we thought to go to Epsom, he probably had to have a tough 1.5 miles somewhere, and we just felt that was as tough as we would give him, and at the same time give him a chance to make it back, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. The stayers will have the likes of the vintage crop. Obviously, that's been moved, and kind of Comers have come in, very generous sponsorship of that. Do you have anything off the top of your head might be heading in that could end up in a, or maybe an Irish Ledger horse down the line or something? In the vintage crop, the mile 6 race on Sunday.
Yeah, last year's Irish Derby winner is in it at the moment. So
Sovereign.
Yes. So he's only ready to start as well, and we were just looking for a race to start him. So we were thinking of doing that, even though probably we prefer going back to 1.5 miles, but it's very possible that he might start there because Sir Dragonaut might come back and he might run in the 1.25 in the 1.25 group race over the weekend. So he seems to have come out of Ascot well as well.
So Dragon, that was just asked about him. He seemed to hit the line hard enough in Ascot. Do you think so it's down in trip rather than up in trip with him next time potentially?
Yeah, it was 1.25 miles in Ascot. We had it in our head that he might go to the King George, and he came out of Ascot very well, and like you said, he hit the line very well. So we just thought it would. Listen, he might be able to take it on the way to the King George, and then he might be put away for the autumn after that.
Yeah. See how they go. It's just been such a strange season, hasn't it, Aidan? I mean, what's it been like planning all these horses and then you just have that sort of 9 or 10 weeks taken away?
Yeah, you don't really know, and like we're the same as everybody. Like a lot of the 2-year-olds that ran in Ascot only started that week before, and I think all anybody can do is when the horses are well to run them and to see what happens, because obviously a lot of stuff is not ideal, but listen, that's the way it is, and like we're just so lucky to be back racing really, and make the best of it really. And listen, we won't get it right all the time, and from doing it we'll know that some horses won't back up, but you won't really know that until you run them.
Yeah, exactly. Andy, might bring you in. Anything else you're kind of looking forward to over the weekend? There's obviously plenty of racers, all the eggs in the sun chart basket really.
I'm looking forward to Rebel Tail Sunday in the 1.25 mile winners race. He ran well in the Guineas. He got a bump for long out. He was going to run a nice race. Like Aidan said, he's one of those horses that will improve the racing. We weren't able to get him away, and I'm looking forward to him Sunday in the winners of one race.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you're rarely a stranger in the Curragh winners enclosure, Andy. So always good to get horses out and about there. Some questions about the 2 fillies, Aidan, Love and Peaceful. Just there's a couple of questions coming in there. How are they?
Yeah, both are well. Both are on the program for the Epsom Oaks. Now it's possible that if Love is going to Epsom, the Peaceful might miss it and go straight on to the Curragh. But it's possible that Love could do both. Love likes nice ground, and I think listening to the lads, they'd probably like to keep her on nice ground, and if the ground got soft, she probably would sidestep wherever. But it looks like the ground is going to be nice at Epsom at the moment. We spoke to Andrew Cooper there today, and the ground is good at the moment, and they're not expecting a lot of rain, so it looks like that's the way it'll be. Like I say, at the moment, both are being trained for the Epsom Oaks, and we can see them after that.
I actually got a different question for you, Aidan, completely. Someone just typed in there and asked about walking the track. Obviously, it's something very important, and many people, when you prepare for a race, they will see you and your jockeys out walking the track. They just asked, do you have a technique or something you try and use where perhaps you just try and cover the most ground, or what do you say looking for when you walk the track, when they'll see you out and about like that? Yeah,
I suppose like Scott and Andy would know that, like, obviously in sport, like, you try do everything you can, then you try visualize what's going to happen, and you try and hope to turn every stone, and just really ask everybody every question and let everybody else ask each other every question, so that all the different scenarios that everyone is aware of, and they're after seeing the track and it's fresh in their mind, and that's what we try and do. Listen, it's not a disadvantage, Tom, we always think, you know, so it's like everything, you do all in your power to make it happen, and then you just accept the result, and we always say all you can do is your best, and then whatever will be after that, and everybody has to get a turn, and it goes around, and that's important, that's the way it is. But if you fail and you've done your best, like you fail very happily, if you know what I mean.
So it's just a case of ensuring you kind of every piece of information to hand about perhaps there's a softer bit of track there, or that's or something like that, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And usually what happens, Tom, you go through all the things, and then the one thing you don't think of just comes up and gets you, you know what I mean? So that's what happens. But like you try and visualize every scenario, where every horse is going to be, whatever, every tactic that anybody else could do, who could make it, who mightn't make it, who'll drop in, what'll happen, you know what I mean? Will the pace be fast? What kind of ground? Where's the best part of the track to go on? Who's going to get the trip? Who's not going to get the trip? You know what I mean? So all the things you can do. Listen, it's like everybody does, and all it's it's just trying to do your best, really, and then hoping that some results might come your way someday.
So they do occasionally, Aidan. Is it more difficult that, like, obviously you're not traveling to the UK because of the sort of issues with quarantine and whatever, and how much more difficult is that when you're not on site for those days? Because usually you would, you know, fly over to Ascot, come back and be around in the morning. So not being at the likes of Ascot or Epsom or things like that, how much of a challenge is that?
Yeah, sure. Listen, like I said, it's great to be racing. But obviously you'd like to be there, and like I said, Scott and Andy will tell you again, before a race, before a jockey leaves that last 10 seconds or that last 5 seconds, you might say one word. It can either mess the whole thing up, or it can make the whole thing a lot better. And it's like Scott could say it as an owner, Andy could say it as a trainer, someone else could say it. You know what I mean? It's a very fickle time. You know what I mean? You give the jockey a pat on the back and give him a bit of confidence, like let him know just if he had any tension, just to relieve it, or say this or say that, or you know what I mean? It's just a very fickle time. So you know, but
yeah,
as everyone knows, when it's that fickle and that delicate, one word can make all the difference either ways. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just the jockey comes out and you know that he's on fire, and you just don't leave him alone. You know, sometimes you might come out and you might say, like Scott could say, this is very important. You know what I mean? Or Andy could say, listen, this fella stays very well, or this fella is slow, or remember, get him out of the stalls. You know what I mean? So listen, it's a big jigsaw, and who knows? But listen, it's never a disadvantage when you're there. You know what I mean? So yeah, and listen, sometimes it can be a disadvantage to be there, but listen, it's a great racing is on. It's, you know what I mean, bottom line, really.
There you go, Scott. Now you'll know to keep your mouth shut, not to be upsetting these jockeys before a race. You could put them off.
Oh, I said Scott could give him a pat on the back, or say,
"Oh, okay."
Or his dam stayed very well. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like, Scott know the pedigrees inside out. You can say his sister used to do this, his mother used to do that. You know. So.
That's I mean, those different jockeys over the years. I mean, you've heard trainers say, like, you know, the jockey would hand the saddle to you before you go out, and you know, before you tack up, and it nearly the jockey, someone like Johnny Merchant, and he put the confidence into you. You don't even need to worry about those. Did that happen much?
To me, Tom.
Yeah.
Listen, 100%. Like, listen, it's absolutely. Listen, all those things happened always. You know what I mean? It's confidence, and everybody confidence in the horse and the jockey and the owner, and you know what I mean. It's a big thing. Like I see, like, our lads would be very involved, and like it's everyone has to have a word if they think they can improve the thing. You know what I mean? And when all the information is out there and it's all on the table, you know, nobody can ever say after, I didn't say this or I didn't say that. You know what I mean? And like, communication is always an advantage in every way, I think, you know, so we would always think from everybody.
And is that something like so you'd encourage, no matter how bad a horse is on, you just want to know, good or bad, you will just want to know that information from the rider or the groom or whomever, like something could have happened on the way down.
Yeah, but why we always put on, or try and put on, listen, make sure the pace is level, because there's nothing worse after a race coming in and you're not knowing whether this was his trip or wasn't his trip, this was his ground or wasn't his ground. So you want to know exactly, because you want to know, we try and know where to go the next day. There's nothing worse coming in a muddly race and you don't know whether he stayed or he didn't stay, or he was unlucky or he was, you know what I mean? All anybody wants is the best horse to win and at the best distance. And then everyone can make a plan and you know where you can go. That's what you always hope for. Listen, that doesn't always happen, but that's what you hope for, Tom, you know, so.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
yeah, absolutely.
And that's the big advantage about the Curragh over a mile and a half. Of all the tracks all over the world, there's usually, very rarely, hard luck stories at the Curragh.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And look, it's so good that we're back racing, and it's so good. It's a Dubai Duty Free Irish Job weekend. It's just a shame more people can't share it, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think we're lucky in this day and age. Like you think they don't, but I think because it's televised and it's the world is so small, an awful lot of people all over the world see it. And like, I think when everyone gets to go back racing, like everyone will be more educated about everything, and you know what I mean. So I think it's great, really. You know, that we can all see, and like we can even have this chat in Scott in America and we're in Ireland, and it's like we're all sitting in the one room. You know, so it's incredible.
It is gas, isn't it? Yeah.
and Pat is there at the car. I see Pat is there sitting there.
he's going to pop in any minute now. I mean, Scott, like you said, it's just so much. Even an evening like this, it just builds up to it so much better, doesn't it? I mean, you must feel so much more connected almost to the race and the Dubai Duty Free Irish Derby now.
Oh gosh, yeah. Like I said, I'm sleeping a little less. I'm not complaining, but I've got some focus coming into Saturday. But oh yeah, you know, and then I've got the ability. I get some Irish TV on my computer, and there's been some replays and all kinds of history and things that are shown. And I'm getting more tense all the time, but
no, it's not helping at all, isn't it?
No, but I'm getting a deeper and deeper appreciation for just how special, you know, the Curragh and this race is, and the history of the race, and my goodness, the trainers and jockeys and everybody who's been involved. So yeah, this is good stuff. This is what it's all about. For a breeder, this is what it's all about.
And I mean, is there any sort of go-to race if someone's like, oh, you can watch one replay? Is there any race that you're like, oh, I love watching that?
You know, I would say at the moment I probably got blinkers on a little bit, because I confessed that I'm reading my third biography on Vincent O'Brien. So I've been the horses on the replays and things of his associated with him have been standouts for me, because I read about him and then I see the footage. So I'm a little biased, but Aidan probably doesn't bother. He's not bothered by that either. And you know, it's great. You know, and I will tell you, back to Joseph for a minute. We've had a couple of times when we've sat down and we've been talking, and I get a kick out of asking Joseph what it's like to be on the backs of some of these horses. You know, just you can watch the replay. You can watch the amazing stretch runs. You can watch the climbs up the hill. You can watch it all. But I've asked him a few times, what's it like to be on the back of Camelot or something? What's it feel like to be on the back of some of these horses? Not just in the Irish Derby, but I don't know. I'll never get that experience, by the way. But these replays and all the things I've been catching on Irish TV have been pretty neat. So there's a lot of history here, guys.
And apart from the Dubai Duty Free Irish Job, which is the race you want to win, no doubt, but are there any other races you really just want to kick off the bucket list, real big, as an owner, as a breeder, races you really, really want to win?
I'd love to win the Kentucky Oaks. You know, I have lots and lots of friends in business and other things that if they hang around me for very long, they know that Scott likes horses. And the inevitable question in the States is, have you ever been to the Kentucky Derby, right? That's what everybody asks. That's the question, right? And it depends who it is. A lot of times I'll nod and I'll just leave it at that. But for other folks, I'll explain, well, there's a race the day before for the girls. It's called the Kentucky Oaks. And they kind of go like this, and and they listen. But that would be really high on the list. We'd love to tackle that. I'd love to be there at the Kentucky Oaks and be a part of that history. That'd be amazing.
It's special. Aidan, you've spoken obviously about the Kentucky Derby. Don't annoy Scott too much, but like it does seem to be quite a different level. Even like 120,000 people, even though they walk the horses through the crowds. It's kind of a different scenario altogether, isn't it?
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Yeah, that weekend is unbelievable, really, isn't it? It's just, I think you have to go there to experience it to understand. It's just the most unbelievable. Yeah, like we were there with Mendelssohn last year, was it a couple of years ago?
A couple of years ago, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it was raining and everything was, and it didn't matter. It was like as if there was no rain. The way everybody was everywhere, walking up the track in their shoes, and you know what I mean. And people outside, you'd hard to believe the atmosphere, Yeah. Isn't it, like a Scott? It's you just can't describe it. All kinds of people everywhere, aren't? What isn't it? Like?
Yeah, it's very colorful.
Yeah.
I'll tell you though, it's a test.
Yeah.
It's a test for the jocks. It's a test for the horse.
Yeah.
We were very, very, very fortunate last year to win the Grade 1 Humana Distaff that weekend, and it takes a special horse to be able to put up, as Aidan said, whether it's coming from the barn into the saddling enclosure or just leaving the saddling enclosure going to the track. When you've got a lot of people that they've been having fun for hours, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure half of them by the midpoint of the day know where they're at, but it's a test.
Yeah, and people are on top of the horses nearly, aren't they, Scott? They're nearly touching. Like it's hard to believe.
It is a little claustrophobic, right?
Yeah, and the parade ring there's just a room for the horses to walk around, and everyone wants a bit of it, don't they? And it's just incredible, really.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
yeah.
It sounds like anyway, guys. I think we've been told. Thank you all so much. It's been an absolutely brilliant effort. Thank you so much to Scott. Thanks to Aidan. Thanks to Andy as well. And look, best of luck to everyone on Saturday in Dubai Duty-Free Irish Derby. Just last shout out to I'll Watch Mia as well. Generous sponsors of the Pretty Polly, the likes of Gain, Paddy Power, and so thanks so much to all the sponsors of the Curragh. Unfortunately, we won't have crowds in attendance this year, but of course you can catch it all on RT Racing and also on Racing TV. So make sure you catch up on that. Scott, hopefully you're tuned in as well, and you'll be cheering all the way to the line as well from Kentucky. But look, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone, all those Curragh members for joining in on the call too. Thanks for your questions. And again, Aidan, Andy, Scott, thank you all so much. And hopefully we'll see you all very soon. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Scott.
Pat, would you like to say a few words on behalf of the Curragh there, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Scott, Andy, and Aidan, for your time this evening. I really enjoyed that. We discussed so many different things. We strayed around. It was really very, very enjoyable for me. Scott, I'd like to thank you particularly for what you said about Irish racing. And it's owners like you that have contributed so much to the sport in Ireland and have made the sport what it is. Foreign owners, owners pay the bills in this sport. And we've been fortunate in Ireland that so many owners have come to Ireland from overseas, had their horses here, enjoyed the experience, and has contributed so much. I mean, if you think to someone like Walter Hefner, who came here for one trip, and all of a sudden then, was bitten by the bug and ended up buying horses and then building a very big stud farm and putting down roots. And he's only just one name that comes to mind. So the owners have contributed so much. And I'd like to say thank you for your very kind comments, because that goes all the way back. That goes all the way back to the groom that leads the mare. It's everyone in this industry in Ireland. And this industry employs so many people, particularly.
Pat, I'll tell you something real quick, Pat.
Please.
You probably find this interesting. So 5 years ago, we bought our first filly privately in Ireland, brought her to the States. And she was a little black filly, not very big, all heart, named Bobby Grace. And she was bred by Francis Crowley. who I didn't know at the time, but I was starting to work with a gentleman here in the States who now works for us and oversees our operation, Tony Lacey. And he said, well, let me tell you who Frances is. And I thought, okay, now wait a minute. You're saying Frances is married to Pat Smullen, and you're telling me that her sister, and I was connecting the dots, and I thought, boy, that's a small world. Well, we had a great time racing Bobby Grace, and by the time she was done, I made the decision she was not going to go back through the sales ring. I wanted her to go back to Pat and Frances. And they have her to this day, and they're breeding. And that happened 5 years ago. Then along the way, I was learning about a gentleman named Joe Crowley, and I was learning about this training center that he had that Tony referred to as the Hill. And I said, the Hill? And he was telling me about the Hill. And then I think about a year later, Joseph retires from the saddle. And Tony one day says, Joseph's taking residence at the Hill. And I said, you're kidding me. How does this happen? And honestly, that's how a lot of these pieces fit together for me, because Bobby Grace opened the door. Pat is just a class act. Frances, who I learned as I read, was quite an accomplished trainer on her own. And then, of course, you know, her sister and Aidan, and then there's Joseph and the Hill. So to be honest with you, hiring Joseph for me and having horses at the property felt like that's what I was supposed to do. And that's the truth. I've never said that story before, but that's the truth.
It's a great story. That's really
Oh,
good.
man.
Yeah, hard to believe.
Aidan could tell a story or two about the Hill, Aidan.
I could. I could. Listen, how I got training, Scott, was I met Anne-Marie at the start of a race in Galway. And Anne-Marie was training on the Hill. So I knew I had to make that relationship work, Scott. So that's how.
See, Aidan's a smart man.
That's how that all happened. So
I figured it out too, though. No, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, so Anne-Marie had the license and the setup and everything. And then when Joseph was born, Anne-Marie said, listen, we better switch the license over into your name. So that's, you know what I mean? So it's amazing, you know. So that's how it all happened, Scott, you know. That's so.
And if you don't believe it's a small country, let me tell you another bit. And Andy's not aware of this, but the owner of Andy's horse Sunchart is Pat Garvey. I shared a flat with Pat's brother in New York 30-something years ago. So this is a small world, I can tell you that. You're three. There's no stories coming out of that. Nothing ever happened. It was very boring.
And I wrote
my side of the story. You're three lovely guys. I'd love you all to win the race on Saturday. It'd be fabulous. It's going to be great fun. And there's something very special about the Dubai Duty Free Irish Derby. I'm talking to you this evening. You just got a sense of the passion that there is to win it and the significance of the race. And it really it is something very, very special. But just something which is people may not be aware of, but that there'll be an 18-hour time difference between the coverage of the Dubai Duty Free Irish Derby on Saturday. It's going to be covered by the Green Channel in Japan, which is one of the highest viewing channels in the world. And this is the first time for the race. And it'll be covered by the Dubai Racing Channel. It'll obviously be covered. It'll be covered by Racing TV, who do such a good job, and it's been covered by RTE terrestrially in Ireland, who've really committed to Irish racing so much, particularly at this time. And in the States, then, it's going to be shown for the first time by Fox Sports. So there's an 18-hour time difference between the spread where the Dubai Duty Free Irish Derby is shown. So that gives you a sense of the global appeal of this race. And it's only going in one way. It's only going to get better. This year we've a race. There are 7 different trainers with horses in the race. It's going to be great, and I wish you all the very best of luck. And can I say a particular thanks to all our sponsors who do much, and particularly to Dubai Duty Free for their continued support of Irish racing. So wish you all the best. And Tom, thank you for hosting this. Really enjoyable. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time, guys.